Hey everyone, welcome back to John's Watch. Today I'm taking a look at a new game called Last Time I Saw You. This game was released on Steam on October 10th, 2024. Its regular price is $21.99 Canadian or your regional equivalent, and it's developed by Maboroshi Artworks and published by Chorus Worldwide Games. This is an extremely narrative-driven game. As soon as I saw the store page and the screenshots and read the description of this, I thought this sounded a lot like two other games, one of which I've talked about earlier this year. The other two games are A Space for the Unbound, which was a coming-of-age game set in 90s rural Indonesia. And the other game I thought it was similar to was one that I talked about earlier this year called Until Then, which was another coming-of-age, story-driven game, this time set in pretty close to modern present-day Philippines. And so Last Time I Saw You is a coming-of-age adventure set in 1980s, fairly rural Japan. And it's absolutely not a coincidence that this game makes me think of those other two games, because this game is actually part of a 3-title bundle on Steam called the End of Memories bundle. And you'll never guess what the other two games are that are in the bundle. That's right, it's the two I just talked about. So super easy recommendation off the bat. If you liked A Space for the Unbound and or Until Then, you'll probably love this game. I raved about Until Then when I talked about it earlier this year. I absolutely loved this game. I saw on How Long to Beat that the playtime for the main story was like 3.1 hours or something. And then like to 100% it was 8 hours. And I thought, you know what, yeah, I'll do the main story. You know, I'll be happy with that, because still got a lot of games to play, so I don't want to spend too much time with one game. So I'll do like the 3 hours, maybe some side stuff, push it to about 4 hours. And then 2 days and 7.1 hours later, I'd got every single achievement except for 2 that I literally cannot figure out how to get, and I tried. So yes, long story short, I went into the game planning just to do the main story, and I loved it so much that I did all the side quests, all the collectibles, and even tried to go for all achievements, and yeah, just ended up missing 2, which I'm hoping I can still get. I just need some kind of hint on how to get them, because I have no idea how. In this game, you play as Ayumi. He is a 12-year-old boy in, like I said, 80s Japan, in a very small town in late 80s Japan. He lives with his parents in their house in this very small, quaint, beautiful little town. He has lots of friends in town. They all go to the local school together, and as you're walking around in town, which you do throughout the game, you'll regularly come across your friends. You're able to talk to them. You're able to see, what they're up to. You're also able to talk to all sorts of other people in town, like gossipy housewives, a police officer, taiyaki salesman. And there are a lot of characters, and they are surprisingly well fleshed out for, what is in the grand scheme of things a fairly short game. 7 hours is a long time for like a movie or like an anime series, I guess. But for a game, not overly long. But throughout the 7 hours that I played, I found I could very, very easily recognize characteristics of specific people in the game, and the writers did a fantastic job of making each character stand out. Right from the start, Ayumi has these dreams every night where he sees a very pale girl with long black hair in them. It sounds spookier than it is. It's not spooky at all. And each night he gets closer and closer to her in his dreams, but he never gets to properly see her. And, I obviously don't want to talk too much about the story, because this is the kind of game where you want to experience the story for yourself. But obviously, that character proves to be very, very important in the game, and he does eventually end up getting closer to her. Like I said, the town is super quaint. There's a forest in the middle of it, and for some reason, everyone in town is very creeped out by this forest. Nobody wants to go to it. Ayumi has been told his whole life never to go into it. He went into the forest when he was very, very young, and doesn't remember anything about it and hasn't been in there since. And so obviously eventually you end up in the forest, and that takes up a good bit of the gameplay. You go into the forest and you'll encounter evil spirits, and you'll encounter weird and wonderful characters in there as well. You'll have to do a little bit of platforming, a little bit of puzzle solving, and the only way you're able to fend off the evil spirits is with a trusty baseball bat that you'd got from the school earlier. And so the combat is very simple, but I never felt like it was tacked on or anything. It never felt insultingly easy or anything. It felt just perfect, honestly. Like it's very easy, but obviously combat isn't going to be the focus of a game like this. I do wonder if they'll maybe add like a peaceful mode where you don't have to do the combat, but it's so stress-free that I'd be surprised if they had to. You've basically got 3 health points, and if you somehow manage to get hit 3 times between save points, then you just go back to the previous save point. There are save points throughout the forest, very easy to get to. Whenever you interact with them and save, you fully recover your 3 health points. I went through the entire game with taking 1 hit at most between the shrines that heal you, right up until the very end of the game, where there were just a ton of enemies around, and I did like die twice at that point. But again, if you die, you just go back to the last save point, and as long as you're saving regularly, you'll be totally fine. I really love how they paced the game as well. Very quickly it becomes obvious that you're going to end up going back into that forest. Like I already talked about it, so it's not a huge spoiler. But I think it took me probably about an hour and a half before I actually got into the forest. So I really like that it very slowly built up to it. I think that's maybe why I found the characters so impactful, was because you got to spend so much time with them. Just chilling in town, just doing 12-year-old boy things in town, meeting characters, doing little side quests for them, and then eventually you do end up going into the forest. But yeah, they don't go right into the forest right from the start. They really build up to it. Like I mentioned, there are side quests. Like I said, you can do the main story in 3.5 hours if you want, but the side quests are fun. They're simple. They're very self-explanatory. They're very enjoyable to do, so I was happy to do them. You can also find a bunch of collectibles. I think it was 16 collectibles, I think. I ended up getting all of them because I like the game enough. The weather plays a huge part in this game. You'll find these shrines in the forest and also around town, and they are all to the goddess of rain. And throughout the game you learn a little bit more about this goddess, and she basically appeared to, I guess, settlers years, like 800 years ago, I think they said, 880 years ago, I think they specifically said at one point. And these settlers were struggling in a drought-filled land, and they prayed to this goddess, and she gave them lots and lots of rain, and enough rain to start this town, basically. And so rain and this goddess do play a very important part in this game. Like I said, weather in general, the town, the visuals of the town kind of change each day. And you do see all sorts of weather. You see rainy fall days because it is set in fall, so you're going to see a lot of rain. You see beautiful sunsets and sunrises, rainbows from the rain, super heavy wind and rain from typhoons. And speaking of the weather, the game is absolutely gorgeous. It looks so good. Apparently it's all hand-drawn, which is insane. And there's so much attention to detail has gone into it. Like you've probably seen a lot of the visuals by this point in the video, and hopefully you're as blown away by them as I was playing it, because it looks so beautiful. I guess one very minor downside, and this is a very, very minor criticism, is I did feel you're playing as a 12-year-old boy, and so all your friends are 12 years old. And I did feel a little bit of a disconnect in that, because, he's 12. I vaguely remember what I was like when I was 12, and he and all the children in the game definitely behave a lot more maturely than I'd expect a 12-year-old to. And there's even this point where he's having like very adult conversations with his parents. And I was like reading what his parents were saying to him. And I was thinking like, oh, how would I, or what I'd imagine a typical 12-year-old would react to this conversation. And he reacts like, I don't know, like an adult. So I just felt a very slight disconnect there. But I was able to overlook it because I liked the game so much. One other slight nitpick was I did notice a handful of spelling grammatical errors. Literally just a handful. Not a big deal at all in 7 hours, but yeah, I did notice a couple of them. There's hardly anything in terms of graphics options. There's literally just what resolution do you want, and do you want VSync on or off? Interestingly, the resolution lists the refresh rate, so I put it to 2560 by 1440 at 60 Hz. And if I turned VSync on, it would lock the game to 60 FPS. But if I turned VSync off, it would unlock it, and I was able to play the whole thing at 180 FPS. So, just interesting that that is there. I was a little bit worried when I saw the 60 Hz in the resolution, because I didn't really want to play locked at 60, and I didn't have to. So as long as you disable VSync and you're not getting screen tearing, then you can play at whatever frame rate you want, pretty much. I don't really want to say too much more about the game, because it is so story-driven, so narrative-heavy, very character-based. Just like the other two games I mentioned, A Space for the Unbound and Until Then, it's a story that I definitely think if you've made it this far in this video, you're probably a fan of these kinds of games. I think it's a story you'd want to experience for yourself. Again, if you liked either of those two games, you'll probably love this game, because yeah, I've liked all three of those. There you go, that was my review of Last Time I Saw You. Thank you guys very much for watching. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!